I had a doctor, this was years ago, but it was so true, but now I understand it was a fascia, and he was commenting, "If it wasn't for stress, you'd have no muscles at all." Now that I'm thinking about it, he was right, I was under a lot of stress at the time, so maybe he was right. B, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm sure it was the fascia had just constricted. It's a protection thing, as I understand it. Oftentimes it constricts to protect us, whether it's useful or not, that's another story.
And so put this together, this experience of contemplating my fascia and the protective stuff. And then I was been working with an Alexander technique teacher and been working with her since the beginning of the pandemic. And one of the things that she always talks about is what does your body think it's supposed to be doing? There's all kinds of stories we're told about how we're supposed to have a certain posture. And the kind of things that we're told are actually really counterproductive to us having a fluid, responsive fascial system that can help our lymph move fully and easily through our body and keep moving and responding and pumping in response to blood flow. Just such a beautiful system that we live within. But we get told, pull your shoulders back. And when you start deliberately trying to pull your shoulders back, one of the things that happens is it tightens all the way down your back. And all of a sudden, your lungs your lungs are trying to work in there and there's no room for them to expand. The little hinge in the back along the spine that lets the ribs move and flow in response to the breath, all of a sudden that's all turned off. So she had been talking to me, and I've been thinking about the stories we live within. What are the stories that we live in? And how are we making those stories into contracts that could then be released that would allow us to have that fluidity and that ease? So there I am, working for 3 years with my Alexander technique teacher who keeps saying, "Hey, Sherry, your shoulders are up around your ears. There's really no need for them to be up there." And I would breathe into them, I would bring them down, they would fall 3 or 4 inches, and the next time I stopped thinking about it, they'd be up around my ears again. So I was like, "Okay, if I'm working with stories and fascia and unconscious contracts, what's the story here? What's happening with my shoulders? Why are they going up towards my ears?" And as I felt into that, it felt like there were marionette strings attached to the tops of my bones. And I was like, "Marionette strings? Who am I dancing as a puppet for?" And I was like, "It must be my mom." Now, my mom, lovely person, died about 10 years ago. If I'm still dancing to my mom's marionette strings, it's a useless action.
Yeah, definitely, but stories from childhood on tend to keep us moving in specific ways.
So I said, "Okay, if this is an unconscious contract, I will dance to my I will be the marionette on my mother's puppet strings. I will do this in order to," and our audience will remember how important that "in order to" is. We never know what it is until we start to reach in and feel it. I was like, "I will dance as a puppet on my mother's strings in order to," and the audience may remember that my mom had dissociative identity disorder. So it was really important that I cooperate with her in order to keep her stable and so that she would not shift her personas and so that I would continue to have a mother. So I was like, "I'll dance as a be a puppet on my mom's strings in order to keep her stable and in order to make sure that everything happens in a way that she expects so that she just stays with me so that I get to have a mom." And I was like, "Okay, good vow." Good vow from childhood. Do I still need it now? Now that she's dead, do I still need it? Maybe did I still need it after I was 18 years old and left her home? And I was like, "No, obviously, I don't need this anymore. Shoulders, I'm gonna let go of those puppet strings. I release you from this vow. I revoke this contract." My shoulders came down and they haven't been like when I forget, they still stay down. They're not they're not pulling up anymore. And in both of these stories about my chiropractor and about my work with my puppet strings, I think one of the things that's really hitting home in this moment is how much I've been noticing that just telling myself to do something is not enough. That there needs to be a respect for the thing I'm doing. And then that warm curiosity about what its root is. Why am I doing this thing? And then that consensual release. Am I ready to release? And then when I'm ready to release, whoo, my body changes. So I just love the unconscious contract process.